Alive.
We are live. Cool, cool, cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live stream session with Sage and I. My name is Esther, and I'm a developer advocate at Chakra UI. And this is Sage, creator of Chakra UI.
Hi everyone. Excited to be here again. Let's keep this stream going. I think I enjoyed last week's conversation about like
Same.
V3 and also like it'd be good to keep the momentum somehow. See how far we can take this.
Yeah, definitely. So today we're going to be adding the color picker component from Ark UI. It's currently in Ark UI, and we're going to be publishing it and migrating it to Chakra UI, right? So, Sage, I think it's time to pass the ball over to you to just talk through um the components in Ark UI and like the backstory from Zag.js to Ark UI, the color picker component.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, let's see. So I'm gonna just add my screen to the cast
Okay.
before going too far. Let's do entire screen. One sec. Okay, so now I can add it to stage whenever I want. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to add my screen back up to the stage. All right, so we've got we want to add the color picker component today. So let's start
Yeah.
off with looking at like the story of like how we develop things now in Chakra UI going forward.
Yeah.
So typically most of the things start in Zag.js. So we model all of the logic using state machines. And the reason we use state machines is very obvious. Mostly we want to just model the logic once and we use it pretty much in any JavaScript framework, including React. I mean, Chakra UI is only React, so that makes the work a lot easier since we only have to deal with one framework here. So if we find our way to the color picker,
You
I
want
think
to zoom
one
in
of
a bit? I
oh
think
yeah, let me do that. Is it better?
yeah, it's better now. Maybe one
Okay,
more.
one more. Oh boy.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, so here we've got like the color picker in Zag.js. So this is really the foundation of the components logic. I'll try to click this button and see if it opens up, so you can see what the skeleton of that component looks like. All right, so this is a very, very big diagram, but all that you can see here is pretty much like all the logic that happens inside of the color picker, uh, pretty much the flow chart of everything going on in there. Now, of course, it's way easier to see this and visualize this and pretty much work your way through the logic, compared to like actually just like writing all the code and all the if conditions and else conditions and the states and all those complexities. But all of that has been modeled with the state chart, right? So the goal here is kind of like, you can see the color picker here in Zag.js. I mean, you can tweak, you can pick the color, you can sort of change the hue, the saturation values, change the alpha values, even pick a color on screen like that one, and it just works nicely. So the goal is we're able to sort of like use this component, and let's just try to bring this into Chakra UI directly. Now, with all of the journey we went through with Zag.js and Arc, I think one of the common things we probably noticed is like in Zag.js, for example, I mean, to use the color picker feels a bit like, I mean, you've got to install Zag.js color picker, and you've got to do maybe a bunch of spreads for all the parts, and that gets a bit like intimidating when you see those spreads directly on the components.
Yeah.
It just feels like, I mean, I'm a little lost here. Like, what is going on? I mean, ideally, people are kind of used to like working with headless components, right? So, and I mean, this you could say is headless, but maybe not the real ultimate headless experience you'd want, right? So we created Ark UI to pretty much like, I mean, mirror that experience that you'd want, right? So if you come here to ColorPicker and Ark UI, works pretty much the same like the one in Zag.js, like so, with the alpha and all the things going on. And there's also some nice anatomy diagrams. And this is more like what people, I mean, especially folks that use React to kind of experience. I mean, this is what I mean by headlights. So I can see all the parts as components and I can style them however I want. I think this is usually where it becomes like, yeah, this I can work with
Interesting.
this one.
Yes.
here. So with this in Ark UI now, we've got this in headless format. Even what is here is headless. Of course, we style it a little bit, so at least you can use it and it looks nice. So the goal is to actually like bring this as a core into Chakra UI, right? And then we kind of like try to think through like what do we expect to? I mean, this is how verbose it is in our UI. Like every part is exposed. But in Chakra UI, is that really what we want? Is there a way we could make that experience a little bit more pleasant? I would say that's really one of the key questions we ask ourselves now.
Okay. So
All
more
right.
like when it's in Arc UI and you're trying to migrate to Chakra UI, whatever component, you're thinking based on the perspective of the user, like how easy is it going to be for the user to, use this particular component, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
I think beyond that is also like, I mean, by default, I mean, Chakra UI kind of mirrors Arc UI, especially
Mhm.
when we've got any of these logic-based components. So we pretty much mirror Arc UI, except that like the only difference within Arc UI, between Chakra and Arc is that with Chakra you can just pass style props to any of the components and style them, right? So that's one major difference, right? And then with the new idea called snippets that we introduced in Chakra V3, you start to think about like how do we abstract some parts into a snippet, so you really don't have to like. I mean, you still own the code ultimately, but you don't have to write too much in your application code to be able to use a color picker, right? So I think that's pretty much where we want to take this and see how far we can go from here.
Yeah, cool, cool, cool. All right, let's get started. So, what's usually the first thing that you do?
To be honest, it's just like, I mean, take a look at this code and just copy it over. And so what I do typically is, I'm not sure if my code editor, I need to zoom in one
You
more
could zoom
maybe.
in, yeah. One more. Yes, I think it's fine.
Yeah, so one of the things I kind of tend to do is I just go in here to the packages, source, components, and just like create a new file for that. So let's just call this ColorPicker. Um, this is going to be shipped. It's not like some demo thingy.
So, this
So
is what we'll be using in Chakra
yeah, most
for.
likely. Of course,
Okay.
maybe after the call, I might tweak some things or refine them. But largely, this is what it's going to be.
Nice.
So I'm gonna create like maybe I'll do like an MDX file. So in here in this MDX file, I tend to just do all my ideation before actually starting to like write the code.
Okay.
Right. So the first thing I'll do is just let me just like pick out this one, the entire color picker from Ark UI here. I just create like triple backticks. Yeah, this is quite a lot. I'm going to even have to kind of like collapse the side panel a little bit so you can see it. All right. So I mean, for simplicity, I'm going to just queue that default value here. So this is what the Arc UI one looks like. Now I start to ask myself like, what can I mean, how can this look like in Chakra UI before going too far? So my condensed version is gonna look like this. So I'm gonna make my final version up here, and do like color picker root is literally like the root component, which is like where all the logic lives. So if you look at the anatomy, I'm just gonna work based off of that anatomy here. So you've got like a root which kind of holds everything. You've got an input for entering the X value. You've got some sort of trigger, and then you've got some content, right? So that content there is what I'll try to sort of pretty much model this. So let's go like color picker root, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I've got some AI assistants here. So I'm using cursor,
Yeah,
so that
Chris.
helps a little bit. So I'll go here and do the color picker label. So that's where, I mean, that's gonna hold the label component.
Mhm.
And then down here we've got like, I mean, a color picker control which holds like some X value and alpha. I mean, it gets pretty clunky, but what I really want to focus on is I just try maybe just do like color picker input, X input. Let's leave it this way for now. So that would kind of represent everything that's going on in here.
Yeah.
Um, let's even just call this like the trigger, maybe. We'll see. And then down here, so we're kind of done with all of that. So we come down here to the positioner. One of the things I tend to do with the positioner is I smush in the positioner and the content. These two things. Positioner is for dynamic positioning. All right. So when you open up the switch, or when you open this up, you can see it's like placed directly above or beneath sometimes. So you see that dynamic positioning
Yeah.
going on there. That's what the positioner does. So I just kind of like my goal is to sort of like create some sort of like color picker content. Inside of that content, I'll just do the positioner most likely. Just thinking through the API here. So now I've got that one covered. The next thing I've got is there's some color picker area, and then there's some sliders going on, right? So let's see what that looks like. This is the color picker area right here, which is kind of like the area, the surface they use to pick the color. And then you've got like these sliders going on. There's a very good chance that this should always exist. So I'm not gonna like have to break them down into several parts. So I can just call this the color picker area in that sense.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So color picker area,
Yeah.
something like this. So that's gonna be the entire area, everything right here. And then I mean for the final parts, I'll probably keep this inputs sort of different from the area, right? So I'll call this the format input.
Okay.
So this is like this is an RGB value. I mean anything that's X automatically like X code like this translates to RGB. All right, so this is just like the X1 again, and then the opacity input, right? And then down here you've got some swatches. So what I'll do is just like just do like swatch color picker swatch group maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. And then inside there, I mean, you could just like put it as a single thing. And pass in all the items. Right. So depending on what happens there, you can just like feed it all the colors that you want to actually stay in there. Right. So I mean, this would be my quote unquote like condensed version
A
in
chakra.
Chakra.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea is kind of like the imports will actually come from something like this, right? So the imports will actually come from some snippets in the project, right? So you import all of these parts pretty much from there, and you should pretty much be able to model the color picker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why we want to keep it this way actually is so that like imagine if you wanted a color picker that is just the swatch group only, right?
You can just pick it.
In that case, what your code will look like
Mm-hmm.
is pretty much like you're just gonna strip away all the stuff. And like the only thing I get here is just the swatch group.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's very modular for the user.
Yeah, so it's kind of just modular there. And if you ever want like just like the color picker area only, you can just like do exactly the same thing. Just copy that and just grab just the area part in there. You can grab the content with it, but this is also like another version. You just strip out the inputs and all the stuff, and you have just that one.
Yeah.
All right, so this sort of like just gives you a fair enough idea of how do we want to structure this, because the goal is you don't want the user to write all this verbose code.
Yeah.
You just want them to have just like a minimal setup. You could even argue that this still feels like a lot, but I think it's just the best experience you can get.
Yeah, I think because the color picker has lots of parts, so you also want it to
Yes.
be useful to the user.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the point there. So let's see where we can start from to actually like. Let's assume this is like the goal. I've also seen some. I was gonna say I've also seen some like color pickers where it's just like that, right? There's nothing else inside. You just like.
Wow,
It's just one component there.
that's
And what?
interesting.
Yeah, so that one is like, if that's the best you can have in terms of lines of code, you just put it there and that's it. But of course, then you have to actually think about like what is inside there.
Mhm.
So usually in a design system, if you build your design system on top of Chakra UI, then you can make the decision and close it out like this. But from our own standpoint, being like Chakra being the baseline for most people, you don't want to close it up like so. You actually want to at least let them be able to kind of pick how they want to structure things.
Yeah, but Chris has a question here. I'm just gonna put it on screen. It says, but since you ship the snippets to like the users, could you make an argument to just go with color picker, that's the single component, and let the user tweak it? Yeah, I think that's a perspective, right? That makes sense too.
Yeah, that's a perspective. I mean, the way I think about things in general is if you made like an entirely closed component like this, and every time the user meets a different scenario of a color picker, they have to go back to the snippet to change something or add a new prop to configure something. And what I mean by this is, let's just go back to the browser and just do like color picker. Just search randomly for color picker. Now imagine if you are
You
actually
can
in a
zoom in a
company.
little.
I'm going to zoom in.
Yeah.
Imagine if you work in a company with like several designers, and sometimes the designer maybe came with like this UI right here. And then another time you're supposed to maybe like do this type of UI, right? I mean, most of the time the design changes over time. It's never like a fixed component, right? So you just want like a color picker like this. Within a company, you could argue that even design changes a lot. So if you can agree that design changes a lot, then you want to actually like make your like components, somewhat resilient to those changes. Because if you have to go back and change and tweak, let me show you what happens in a company's code base or in an actual legit code base. You'd have like color picker V1, Color
V2.
Picker V2, and Color Picker sometimes V2.5. I mean, depending on what you want.
True.
And then people actually start to create like really, really weird snippets for like weird use cases. And you see a lot of like duplication going on across those places. When in actual fact, the solution to that could have been like just make your APIs slightly open, not like totally open, but slightly open so you can actually tweak that. Right. So, and of course, people don't have the time to start to break. They don't want to break V1, so they're just going to copy that and do V2
Yeah.
instead. Right. And that's like based off of this alone within Google, you can see like, okay, this is a different type of color picker that maybe you want to use in your settings page for the workspace. You want to pick a color for the workspace in your app, and then it's like it's kind of different from the color picker, but it's also a color picker because you got swatches, right? I mean, it gets really annoying from here out, right? So that's why you want to actually like keep it slightly open, so you can actually like kind of pick whatever use case you want, right?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So the further argument, I mean, to just kind of like maybe wrap that up is like, I mean, even though you've got this, you could then take this to actually like wrap this up into like a single component, right? But at the base, at the core of it, especially with the snippets, we want to design them in such a way that they are kind of resilient to changes.
Mhm. So like
All
there
right.
has to be a balance, right? The
Yeah.
minimum, user requirement and also ensuring that it's flexible enough for people to also tweak.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so just seeing here, just going to Google Images gives you like the designer's mind. Like people have designed this in many ways in the past, right? So it kind of tells you that like there's no one way to design stuff. I mean, look at this, for example. This is like, I'm just gonna open this new tab. Yeah, so this right here is a very classic example of like 6 different designers in a company. Let's just imagine that, right? So like, someone came and designed the color picker like so because they think is like nice, and then a different person sort of comes with like, I mean, this one that looks like slider and this one that looks like Twitter. I was like, I mean, how do you work around this? It gets really complex to handle that, right? So and you don't want to mess things up by having different versions of this component. At least from our own level, in the user's code base, they could go make that, but like at our own use case, we probably want to keep that simple. Okay. So yeah, so that's kind of like the key point. So let's go into so actually like, let's start with the very first step into this process. So the first thing we want to do is, interestingly, the translation from Ark to Chakra is pretty kind of direct. But
Straightforward.
yeah, I mean, first thing I'll do is just like, I mean, let's just get out of here first. Let's get out of the main branch. ColorPicker. Um, so we don't destroy Chakra UI and the entire universe here. Let's go here and like, I just make like a ColorPicker file. ColorPicker.tsx. There's already like some sort of like spaghetti code, like just like so for every component from Arc. I mean, we've got like this file, and a bit of setup code. It's pretty much looks the same, right? So it's just
Is
gonna
it
be a
auto
lot of.
generated or is just like a, something that you just have and you copy paste?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was auto generated. I think I can try something with Cursor and see if you can help me. So what I'll do here is I'm just gonna grab like the imports from here, like so. And what this does is kind of like, I mean, okay, Cloud is doing, I mean, Cursor is doing something for me. Just go there into Ark UI React / ColorPicker. And we do this just for bundle size reasons. So we've got the Arc ColorPicker right here. And then the next thing we want to do is like, we want to create like a slot recipe context. Right? So I'm going to explain what all this stuff means. Just let's just keep going here. So here with the slot recipe, so the color picker would have to use a slot recipe because it's got multiple parts, right? So based on what we saw here in Ark UI, it's got like many parts you need to style, right? So that's why it's kind of like a slot recipe. So I'm just gonna change that key there to color picker. I'll probably call it like color picker, like so, and then let Cursor do the rest for me. So with that in place, I'm just gonna I mean, there's a little bit of like spaghetti, sort of like boilerplate code. So I'm just gonna write a prompt and see if it helps me figure it out. So I'm gonna copy all of this, like so. This is the boring part. So I just have to figure out how to, based on this code here, update this file similar to the collapsible one. I think that's it.
Nice. It's interesting to see how much AI has helped us as developers, right?
Yeah.
Like AI just makes things so easy and straightforward, as opposed to
Oh
if
yeah,
you
of
had to do
course.
this manually on your own.
Oh yeah, this is like just insane. Like I don't want to type all this boilerplate code. And I mean, I think that's how you know you have a good design in general, because like you have a lot like a template or a process for AI to just like follow.
Yeah,
So
true.
the dude is kind of like, I mean, I call the dude the cursor. It's kind of like going in there to just like help me set up the base template I'm gonna need.
Hey, Steph. Welcome. Thanks for joining the live stream.
Hey, Steph. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, cursor is kind of done with all of that right now. I'm just gonna like go full screen so it makes sense. I'm gonna assume it's correct, even though I'm not sure it is. But we'll figure it out. Now, the next thing we want to do is we just go here to like, so we always create like this namespace file. That's for the, oops, namespace, not namespace. Yeah, that's sort of like the dot notation stuff, right? So this kind of helps us to do all the nice, like this dot notation syntax we've got here. So that's like the namespace file, that's what it does.
Okay. Nice.
So add the namespace exports from ColorPicker TSX, similar to collapsible, maybe collapsible
Yes.
namespace.
Okay.
There we go, that one. I mean, so this is just me in my
Minister.
yeah, it's just me in my AI zone, just like trying to automate the work. Cause I mean, we don't have much time here.
Yeah. Well, we're almost half an hour.
Yeah. So we've got like all the parts kind of exported out for us in there. I'm just gonna use I'm gonna use a similar syntax here as well. Um, Similar to collapsible index. Let's do it again. Collapsible index. And then it's just gonna add all the exports for us there. All right. So what has gone on here is pretty much a translation from Ark to Chakra, allowing us to pass style props to the component. That's pretty much the gist of everything that just happened now.
Okay, so
So I'm
that
gonna.
was literally the prompt that you passed, right? All the
That's
prompts
literally
and
the prompt that I passed.
generations.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So if I come here, for example, and let me just try out the ColorPicker route. All right. I'm gonna just go down here and just do a demo. Const demo, and then we render the color picker route. Now the difference between that and Chakra here is like, okay, let's just grab the imports from color picker. Now I can pass like Chakra UI stuff to it, right? Like BG
Sweet.
and padding and stuff. So pretty much that's what just happened. So we
Okay.
took Ark UI and just like wrap it with Chakra. Right. So we chakrified the Ark UI components over.
Yeah, really, really
Um,
cool.
yeah, so that's what happened now. So with
Okay.
that done, the next thing we're gonna do now is just like just go to the components index. So here we've got components. I'm just gonna sort of like export out the color picker. Okay. So we are in a pretty good spot now. So I'll create a storybook just to test things out. ColorPicker.stories. I'll just copy out a boilerplate from existing stuff and change this to components, ColorPicker. And then for here, I'm just going to compose it here, right? So I'm not going to do anything too much basic. So we haven't started doing any stuff, any snippets, or like what we discussed earlier, this shortened version. So I'm not going to do the short version. I'm just going to go straight to Ark UI and copy out this basic version here.
So is this how it's going to be, or you're going to refactor later on?
Yeah, we're gonna refactor shortly. Let's just get it to show up first, I guess. So here we've got like, let's just import that one from source. And then we've got like parse color. So this function is what we use to set the default color in there. I'm just gonna make sure that we actually have that exported because it's pretty useful. Parse color. And then here we can import parse color from source. Okay, so I'm gonna run the storybook now and see what comes out on the other
Yep.
side. It's gonna look pretty ugly because we don't have any styles.
Yeah.
But let's see what
Let's
happens.
see.
So storybook comes up. I have to zoom in most likely.
Yeah, it's fine
Um,
this way.
and then we go to the color picker component. You can see
Hmm.
at least it shows up no errors.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm not sure where this stuff is though. Like, what do I need to click on to see the picker? No idea. It most likely is too small for me to click on it, that one. So I just do like width of 40 pixels, height of 40
Okay.
pixels, so I can see it. There you go. That's the guy.
Okay.
So you
Nice.
can see it kind of like, I mean, it looks kind of ugly, but at least you can see all the stuff working.
At least it shows up. Yeah, shows up
Yeah, it
with the
shows up
parts.
there
Yeah.
with all the parts. That's awesome. So the next thing now, so this is pretty much the first thing. Like, just take the thing from Ark UI and just wrap it with Chakra with the help of Cursor and all this AI stuff. Like, you can do all of that pretty fast. Now, the next thing you want to do is like, I mean, now that that's in here, you want to actually start to figure out like, how do I kind of like, I mean, style this to look good,
Yeah.
right? So for styling, There are a couple of things. I think the most important stuff is, I mean, if we come here, let's see, where do we start from? Let's see. So let's start by just like styling. Maybe we can start by
Input.
styling this to look good. The
Um,
input or the swatch. Let's start by
okay,
styling the
let's start with
swatch.
the swatch. Yeah, let's start with the swatch.
So down here you've got something called the value swatch, which is just the swatch for the actual like value itself, right? So what we want to do here is let's just the trigger. Let's just make that also like 40. So you can see that's kind of like the color, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that shows up pretty nicely. I've got a transparency grid as well in there. So to save our time, what I'll do is I'll go into sort of like the styling from Ark UI. All right, so just go to this demo and sort of like see how that's styled, and just copy that over to start. Okay,
Yep.
so I think the styling. I mean, I have to check, but there's a very good chance that the styling lives in Ark UI.
QI. Yep.
For the color picker. So let's just go to like color picker here, and I look for that's the color picker demo. So that's the demo that powers Ark UI. I'm going to pretty much look for the recipe. So I come here to Ark UI packages, panda source, theme, recipes. That's the color picker one.
So this is where the style that this is where the style lives that powers the demo in Ark UI.
Yeah, this is the
Okay.
starter parts that I'm on Ark UI. So what I'll do is pretty much like I'm gonna copy over the styles from here. And this is like I mean what I'm about to do just gives you like this is Panda CSS right here. Like this is a Panda
Mm-hmm.
project because it's Ark UI and it also combines Ark UI. So I mean this gives you a fair enough idea of like how what it looks like to go from Panda to Chakra and like switching between these two different projects. And just like see what the experience feels like. So this is the recipe for that one. So what I'm gonna do here is so we've got our own like theme structure as well. So here we've got a theme, the recipes. I'm just gonna make one for the color picker, and I'll paste all that code in. Of course, there are a few things we're gonna change, but that one I'm just gonna remove that one. And import that from I think start system, and I think that's pretty much it. Of course, for the anatomy, I'm gonna sort of like import that from Arc for now. I'll clean that up later, and I'll look through the styles and just like tweak a few things. FG.default, we'll remove that one. BG
BG the
default, we'll remove that
default.
one.
So BG the default is the same as BG
Yes, same as
semantically in
BG
Chakra.
exactly in Chakra, right? And everything here looks pretty much the same. Well, BG the default again. And yeah, that's
That's it.
about it.
Okay.
So the next thing we'll do then is just like, attach that recipe somewhere. I have to figure out where, maybe here, I think. Just come here and do like color picker.
Picker. Color picker slot
Uh,
recipe.
well, I just changed the name of that one to color picker slot recipe and import that. So with that in place, our components should have the recipe now automatically. So we just get rid of all the styles here. And the recipes should kind of like be, if you go back to Storybook,
Let's see.
let's see. So we've got like, it's not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens. This here is called ColorPicker. And then the ColorPicker stories, let's work our way to the ColorPicker component. That one. Yeah, it's called ColorPicker, which is correct. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We shouldn't have to do anything else to see. Well, you have to check the part names. So there's a very good
Part
chance
names.
this.
Okay. Maybe the parts are not aligned.
There's a very good chance the
Not
parts are
in
not
the same
aligned.
name.
Correct.
Okay. I see.
So I'm going to do one thing. Just run this CLI and let the CLI find this for me. Gonna run this in watch mode. Okay, so I've got the CLI running now. Should be able to find issues. So we see all these issues here. Hidden input doesn't need to be styled. So that one is just directly like so. Yeah, we just export that. Like I don't need all these props and all. And then there's a value swatch here. I think it's just swatch is fine. I'm not sure. I think we have a swatch. Yep.
We have swatch. Okay.
And let's go to the namespace here. Get rid of that one. Yeah, I think there's still one more error here. That one goes away.
Hidden input, yeah.
So with that in place, let's see what is going on. Okay, it's coming together.
Okay.
It's coming together slowly here. So what I'll do is just get rid of the inputs for now.
Okay.
So that leaves us with like, I'm just gonna open this one new tab so it's not like looking funny. So that leaves us here. I think we're it's like pretty decent at this
Coming
point.
together, yeah.
Yep. And I can get rid of the value text because this is showing like the value
you
text.
missed some as child pop.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
As child pop. Okay.
Most likely we're gonna do that for this guy. I'll come to that shortly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the value text. So this is what we have, right? So we've got some label, which is that label there. And then you've got like the trigger, which is the button you click on to open the picker. And there you go. So yeah, I mean, it looks way better than before.
Yeah, yeah, it's looking a lot better. It's looking more like a ColorPicker now.
No, it's looking more like a ColorPicker, and like it works pretty well. And then see the sliders are working. Okay, not too bad actually. And then you can also like click on these guys to change the values. You see it works nicely. All you've got to do now is just to style this, and then you've got this pick a color, which I think is the like what's it called? The eyedropper.
Yeah.
The eyedropper tool to pick a color. So let's kind of style this one. So let's start with this eyedropper one, and just like make it look like actually a eyedropper tool. So right now it is where does it live? See too much code on the screen. So here you go. So that's the eyedropper tool.
Eyedropper trigger. Okay.
Okay. So to make this easier, what I'll do for myself is I kind of like, I have a place where I kind of store all the like examples, right? So I like to do everything there. So ColorPicker basic. I'm gonna come back to all this. What I'll do is I just move everything over there. Remove all this stuff, right? And now it's gonna look exactly like what you expect in the userland code. So this is how, like, tentatively, this is how you'd use the ColorPicker. I'll import that from Chakra UI React and just like do all this stuff. We're still gonna create snippets for this, but this is where we start from, and then we go backwards to snippets. Right. So here in Storybook, I'm just gonna kill all that stuff and just do ColorPicker basic. ColorPicker basic, I believe that's what it's called. Export. So I'm just gonna trim that up. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick at the other examples. Like it's called examples. Remove source. Yep. So I'm just gonna export ColorPicker basic as basic, and that means that everything I'm gonna do now is just gonna be in that file. Where the heck is it? Okay, too many files. Let's close it up.
Close it all.
ColorPicker basic.
Yeah, this one.
Just rename that one to ColorPicker basic. All right, so our storybook should pretty much be the same now. All right, so we're fine. Okay, cool. So now that we're here, what we're gonna do next is let's make this look pretty. All right, this is a very good chance this is just an icon button. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm just gonna show the UI we're aiming for. Back to Ark UI again. If you click here, you see that that's sort of like the
This is
eyedropper we're aiming
yeah.
for. That one. It is largely, it feels more like an icon button. So I'm gonna bring the icon button in there. And then inside the icon button, I'm gonna find like some sort of like eyedropper. See if Lucid React has that. What's it called? What the heck is this component called?
Let me see. Let me see if I can find it.
I don't know. Let's probably have to find it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to look too far. We've got the Ark UI code base here. So we just do like color
It's called a
picker
pipette. A pipette.
pipette.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. And then here we just pass in as child, which pretty much means that you want the color picker, the eyedropper trigger to kind of like look like that. And then we can maybe increase the size of this one a bit, and maybe change the variant to like outline, maybe, because we have the button recipe already. So let's go back there, open it up, and there you go. Looks like
Yep.
It looks like that, which is cool. Maybe the next thing we want to do is like put it beside just
Yes.
sliders.
The sliders. Let me see. Yeah,
All right.
put it beside the sliders. Yeah.
All right. So here's where the snippet thing starts to shine. All right. Before I do that, I just like look at this. It feels like way too much code to go on. So what I'll do is like I just like copy that one, and then maybe just create something like eyedropper, and just drop all that code in there. So that gives you an idea that okay, now this is sort of like just the eyedropper. Right.
Because
So I
that's just
just
something the user would likely want to change.
yeah. I mean, it's gonna end up in a snippet anyways. But the good part is I'm able to at least capture that. Like, I mean, that's stuff you probably don't even want to change much, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first one. The next one is now we need to bring this eyedropper from here, up to here. I'm just gonna break it so it's readable. So those are the inputs. What the heck are these sliders? Yeah, those are the sliders up there.
I feel
Let's
like my
go.
camera is in a funny state. Can you see me on video?
Let me check.
It went off.
Oh yeah, it's in a funny state. You look bluish.
I look like an alien, right?
Yeah, I think you should maybe turn it off and turn it back on again.
Yeah. Okay. Try. Yeah, but it's fine. Let's move on. Worst
Okay,
case, I'll
cool.
be on audio. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So what we want to do now is like those are the two sliders. This one and that one. I think it also kind of tells us that like this markup for a slider feels a bit too much. Right. So because it's pretty much identical as the one down there. Right. So I mean, again, another opportunity to kind of like, I mean, make that a snippet, but I won't do that yet. My goal is I've got this slider. That's the eyedropper there. That's the slider for the hue. That's the slider for the
Mm-hmm.
alpha. All right. So what I need to do now is just like style them so they look like side by side, I guess. So what I can do here is I can flex them together, maybe. Those are the two sliders. Maybe add some sort of gap between them. And
Yeah.
then I can stack these two guys on themselves. All right.
Is there any reason why you didn't just use an H tag
Each stack.
instead of a flex?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that actually. Just to like, I mean, with layouts, I'm not really like, I can use anything that works in Chakra. There's way too many nice layout tools. Um, yeah, so there you go. We've got that one. Let's see how that looks like. Now you see, we don't get I think we just destroyed the sliders. Let's do like a flex one here. So it stretches out a bit. The page, try again.
Yeah.
Now we have it here, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. So we're gonna just like go back to the eyedropper again and maybe drop the size because it looks quite big. Let me not put a size for now and see how that looks like. Kind of decent. I'm just gonna drop it one more. Let's do like a small size instead because I think medium is the default. So we've got medium and we've got small. Let's see how that looks like. Yeah, I think I can live with this one.
Yeah. So Steph is asking, what's the difference between flex and H tag? So for me, I think flex and H tag are similar. H tag is under the hood using a flex, just that it's the children or the items within it are horizontally stacked with a particular spacing, a uniform spacing between them. So
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So you could pretty much like think of each stack as equal to like flex, line, center, and gap. Like it has a default gap of 2, I think, right? So, I mean, instead of writing all that code, whether it's align or align items, whichever you prefer, instead of writing all that code, it's just wrapped up into like a nice H stack component. Yeah, so back here we've got something that looks pretty good. One thing that we can see though is kind of like the inputs. I mean, it's got this interesting like, I mean, selector. I don't think I need that for now. I mean, so what this does when you change it is like it changes the inputs to like depending on the color space you pick. Right. So this is an RGB one. This is HSL. This is HSB. Like, there's nothing for HSB currently. It should probably be there, but I don't need any of that right now in my basic because it's pretty basic. And so those are the guys. Those are, you see the when you put the color format to like, I think it takes a bunch of things. HSB, HSL, RGB. You can render inputs. So these are more for more advanced cases. So I don't need them right now.
For basic, yeah.
For a basic example. No, I think there's a format select, that one that I used earlier. I'm going to trim that as well. So with that said, that leaves me with like, now, I mean, I can live with this. This is like pretty simple. I like this one now.
Mhm.
I think you see toggle color format. What the heck is that? I'm just gonna remove that one as well.
Yeah, I think that was for the that was like the label for the different formats,
No, I
right?
mean, I think what it is actually like if you go like I'm opening the dev tools now. I'm gonna let's look at the color picker and dev tools.
Okay.
Like if I open that color picker, there's like this toggle here that when you click
Um,
it, it kind of changes. Like you can kind of like change the
the
color space by
mod
clicking it. But I don't need any of
not
that right
needed
now.
now. Yeah.
This is the basic one. So I think, I mean, it's getting pretty small
Close.
now, pretty close. Yeah, and then that's it. So we've got that one. Now we need to apply some sort of like space between these guys.
Stock.
Yeah, so the question is like, how do we do that? I mean, you could stack it up, or we could go like maybe add a gap to the content, maybe. I'll see like how that works.
I see.
So that's the content right there. You got the area, you got that one. We can just apply space. So I'm just gonna visit the recipe and see if there's like those are all the parts. And then for the content, there's a display flex on that one. I mean, I can apply a gap here, but I'm gonna save that one. I'll just come here to the content and apply a gap of say 6. between the items. Now
Mm,
that's a bit too much, of course. I mean,
maybe
let's just
4.
reduce that to 4, which maps to 16 pixels.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks pretty decent. Now the next thing we want to do here is let's see other things we can do to this to make it like more approachable. Now we have the color picker slider here. It looks kind of similar to the one down, all right, except for that one. But I don't care. They look kind of similar. So what I'll do is I'll just pick that one and maybe make a snippet out of that one because I'm trying to trim this down.
It's not
Um,
too long. It could.
yeah, so it's not too long a code. So let's just go like this for now. Um, Color picker, channel slider props. Yeah, that's more like it. Thank you, cursor. And then I know for sure that I need to render some sort of like what the heck is that transparency grid. So I'll do that here. I mean, I'll leave it there for now. I should probably change that if the format is alpha, but I'll keep it there. So now that I've got that in place, I can replace this and say channel is hue, create another one and say channel is alpha. And now I can queue all that. Now it's
Yeah.
getting to look pretty nice. So you've got the eyedropper, you got 2 sliders for the different channels, and it's all powered by those snippets there. All right, so let's
Mm-hmm.
see if we did not destroy it all. Um,
It looks good.
yeah, still looks good, which is nice. Yeah, so with that in place now, I think what else can we improve here? Let's see. So we've got this swatch group here,
Mm-hmm.
which has like, I'm just gonna space this out, which has a bunch of swatches, like
Yeah.
all
You
this
can
stuff
make them
here.
into their own component.
Potentially, yeah, you can make them into your own components and just like render them as needed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go like this. Copy out, just copy out one of those. Now, I'm not sure if I really need everything there, but
A sword trigger.
yeah, let's copy everything out there
Okay.
and just do like a swatch group. And I'm gonna expand this a bit by passing in items, which will just be like a string array of different colors, right? And I'll let cursor do the mapping for me, which is gonna map through each of those colors and render like a swatch trigger for each item. So with that in place now, we've got like a nice. I mean, this looks funny, but it's gonna make sense shortly when we come here and just like destroy all our code by passing in like red, blue, and green. And then we can delete everything here.
Nice.
So our color picker is kind of coming together already. With just a few snippets again. So up here still looks clunky, but down there it looks maybe nicer, maybe here. So here again, we've got like this color picker area stuff going on. You probably don't need all this code. Like, I doubt you want to I mean, you could customize the town maybe the way it looks, but like, I mean, it looks good already by default. So you could argue that we could take that one as well and make that into like a color area maybe. And now we can replace all of that with like a color area. And it's starting to come together, right? Okay, cool. Let's see what else. What else could we do here? Yeah, the next thing we could do, of course, is kind of like to compose these two together, the positioner and the content. Because if you go back to that MDX we've got earlier, we talked about like having some sort of content only. So the idea is we just want to have color picker content, color picker area, and just the swatch group. That's all we want to have. All right. So if you go back there and see like, okay, I mean, This looks like maybe we should. It's tempting to just like smush them together, maybe.
So you want to smush them,
Um,
or you want to leave them like that since they'll be snippets?
yeah, I mean, you could take this too, of course, and make that into something again. What do we call that? So if you got this area, what do you call this one here?
Perimeter.
Maybe like the slider controls.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's take this one here, and then we can do like, I mean, this slider control. For now. So that gives you like the slider control. So we are kind of like slowly condensing the code. So you actually get to pick like what you need. If you don't need a color area, you can remove that. And with that in
Yeah.
place, you can just like have just like that one. Yeah.
True.
And you can even go as far as like if I don't need the slider controls, I just want a swatch group. I can just do that, and I have just the swatch group to pick from,
Yeah.
which is kind of like the API we are trying to get, I mean, aim for in that sense. So you can kind of just remove the things you don't need, like so. And finally, we can take off this like the positioner and the content. I'll try to kind of like just sort of like smush them together. Let's do like content for now. This would just be like props, content props. It goes there, and I'm just gonna render all this stuff like so. So now you've got the content. I'm just gonna remove all that. Replace
Content.
all of this with just the content. Remove the positioner now.
Yep.
Now we're getting there slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so now we kind of get pretty close to what we designed earlier, right? So
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. Really
content,
condensing it. Yeah.
let's put it side by side now. You've got the content. I mean, we can always change the name, so don't think too much about that one. We've got the color picker area. We've got the slider control, which we did not think about earlier. So this would just be like the slider
Hello.
control.
Control.
And then you've got like the format inputs and then some swatch group. I'm gonna skip this
Mm-hmm.
one for this live stream. So the next thing we'll do is maybe to end this, what can we do? Let's see, to end this, maybe we can do like this top part.
Are we dealing with the input? Yeah.
Yeah, let's just see if we can get the input to show up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should be pretty easy. Let's bring back I'm gonna queue the value text since it's not like a thing. A value text is if you just want to see the text of like what has been selected.
I probably want to
Right?
see it. Yeah.
No, it's gonna show up in the input anyway, so we don't need that. We
Okay.
don't need that one.
Okay.
So let's just remove that one for now, and then we come here, see what we can do with this. I'll stick to just the X one. So that's the X input right there. I think with this one, you can kind of like change it to like red, and you kind of auto format that. You can also use named colors like green, and it's going to pick the green color automatically,
Interesting.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to make this look at like an input, I mean, you could just like bring in the input component, which is like
Yeah.
one of the easiest
Chakra's
things to
input.
do, and say as child, which means like I want to render it to look like that one. Right? So that gets us, I mean, that's very big. But let's change the size a little bit.
Reduce the width.
Reduce the weight. Yeah, that's correct. Let me do extra small. I think something's going on here with the recipe. There's a very good chance. Let's see if the recipe is working on the input. No, search for input. No, there's nothing from here. So it's legit just the input there. Okay, yeah, I figured it out. So this control, there's a very good chance that this control is, let's use an align items of center. Okay, so Yeah, I'm actually, so this is funny. I'm actually very zoomed in. That's why. So
I
it
see.
looks a bit, it looks a bit
I
funny, but
see.
like if I go
So
back
on,
to like that's what it looks like. I mean,
okay,
it just occurred to me that I mean shouldn't look as big as this, but I remember, oh yeah, zoomed in 400%. So
interesting. So it looks
so
really big on that side.
it
Okay,
looks pretty big on the side.
okay.
I'm just gonna try to sort of like stream it down. I mean, I'd love for them to be like the same height if possible. Um,
Yeah, I think this
but
still looks small. Do we have? Okay, we have a 2XS
yeah,
size of input. Okay.
yeah, I think I'll take this one for now. So we've got the label there. The label could be styled. I mean, let's change the text. So you could do like a text style of small for the label for now, which I think is already styled from the recipe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's already styled from the recipe for that component. So the label looks good by default. Okay, so we got pretty far here. I'm just gonna zoom out a bit so at least it looks it looks good.
Do we need to
So
modify the width or no?
maybe not. I mean, the best we can do is let's do like a max width here just for now. Let's do like a small max width so it looks pretty contained.
Okay.
I could even reduce that further. Let's go like extra small or even like two
Two
extra
XS.
small.
Yeah, I think there's more like it. Yeah.
I mean, I'll just even do like, let's do say like, I mean, 240 pixels.
Yeah.
So it looks like, it looks that short, just playing around here. Let's go like that small, right?
Yeah.
So I've got that input. You've got the drop down to select all the stuff. You've got the swatches, if you need swatches in your UI, which is pretty cool.
Mm. Yep.
All right,
Yep.
so
I think we got far actually in like an hour plus.
yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, I would kind of like, I mean, take this one now, which would probably, I mean, I'll keep the alpha for now since it's not part of the basic example. Then I'll take this one and maybe like just go like X input, and I'll drop that in. I'm just gonna skip the prop spot for now, and I'll drop it in there. Yep. I take this one, make some sort of like trigger, and drop it in there, like so. So with that in place, you can actually see that like we have like we're getting pretty close to what the ideal I mean code lines of codes you want to write for a
Yeah.
color picker now, which is awesome. All right, so this is actually what we want to like get close to. So maybe I mean after the stream, I'll probably think about this a bit more and then figure out like what do we want to
Fine
call these
tuning it
parts
couple.
and
Yeah.
maybe like fine tune it. For example, the content could probably be rendered in a portal, so it's not like inline there. So we can do stuff like that to polish it up. But yeah, I mean this gets us pretty far. Yeah, that's. I mean, look, it sounded easy and it felt a lot easier. Of course, I mean, again, I've done this many times, so like it's just like I mean, it's almost second nature now. But that's like the process of making a color picker, and I mean, what we have here is pretty much legit. I'm going to refactor this a bit, make it look nice, put the props, do forward refs, and all the things. And it should be good to go.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is exactly the process you use whenever you're migrating or moving a component from Ark UI into Chakra UI, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep. So when do we expect it in Chakra UI proper?
Yeah, I mean, probably will take a few days, a few hours, maybe. I'll say a few days just to be realistic. So, I mean, most likely maybe next week it
Next
should be
week.
announced. Yeah. Yeah. I'll just
Okay.
like clean it
Awesome.
up and fix some things and we're good to go.
Awesome. Awesome. And what other components are on the way that we should look forward to from Ark?
Yeah, I mean, see how far we went in 1 hour. So like, you just really want to just look at like all the, I mean, pretty much all the components in Arc could end up being Chakra. Like so, I think we've got combo box, which is the next one on my mind. Tags input component, tree view. Like if you want to design like a file tree and all those kind of
Yeah,
things,
I'm
right?
very excited about the tree view one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's I can't. I think be a timer and all this like little nice components in Arc UI. So it's quite robust. Yeah.
Yeah, Steph says, I have a question about the date picker in Ark UI. What's the question? Okay, so the question here is it possible to make a date picker that works like the old iOS date picker with spinners for scrolling through day, month, year?
Is it possible to make a date picker that works like old iOS date picker with spinners or scrolling through? Yes, it should be possible. Of course, right? I mean, I haven't tried it. I mean, you have to just try these things and like to play with CSS. But maybe it could be an example in Chakra when we had this, right? So I mean, the date picker comes with both the date picker and date range picker. So like those two components are also landing in Chakra. They exist in our QI already. But I think you will have to play with the CSS, of course, and tweak the animations and styling to make that work. But it should be possible, of course.
Yep, it should be possible. So David, the date range is coming soon to Chakra UI as well. I know the date picker and anything date picker is so much excitement for developers. So it's coming soon to Chakra.
Awesome. Awesome. Any more
Yep.
questions for us to take?
No questions anymore. So that's it. Thank you everyone for joining this live stream, and definitely it has been very insightful for me. I learned a lot. I don't think I've seen Sage walk through the whole moving a component from Arc to Chakra, and seeing him do that, I learned a lot. So yeah, I think we'll be having ColorPicker in 1 hour. That's probably what we should have called this live stream. I don't. I think we'll be doing more live streams often, and whenever we have another live stream, we'll let you know.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we probably should tackle, say, like the combo box next. I think that one will be
Okay.
very interesting to see. So, I mean, in the next live stream, next week or two, probably, we can add that. Yeah.
Okay, Shegun, last question. Shegun, are you and your team working on another project that you can tell us about?
Oh boy, and we don't have secret projects anymore. Everything's out there already. I think this year has been pretty eventful in terms of like, I mean, the projects we've launched from Panda CSS, Ark UI, Chakra UI V3. Not another one. Yeah, just that's the right one. Not another project. I mean, of course, what we are currently finishing up is Chakra UI Pro, right? So the Chakra Pro components have been revamped like crazy to actually like look way better than it used to be. So that's probably one we're finishing up. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in another live session. Enjoy the rest of your week. And bye.
All right, thanks for joining us. Bye.
Yeah, bye.